Dr. Seuss if I ran the zoo. It's a pretty good zoo, said young Gerald McGrew, and the fellow who runs it seems proud of it too. But if I ran the zoo, said young Gerald McGrew, I'll make a few changes. That's just what I'll do. The lions and tigers and that kind of stuff they have here now are not quite good enough. You see things like these in just any old zoo. They're awfully old-fashioned. I want something new. So I'll open the cages, unlock every pen, let the animals go, and start all over again. And somehow or other I think I could find some beasts of a much more unusual kind. 4-footed lion's not much of a beast. The one in my zoo will have 10 feet at least. 5 legs on the left, 5 more on the right. Then people will stare and they'll say, what a sight. The zookeeper, new keeper's Gerald's quite keen. That's the goat-darndest lion I ever have seen. My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people talk. My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people gawk at the strangest odd creatures that ever did walk. I'll get for my zoo a new sort of hen, who roosts in another hen's topknot, and then another roosts in the topknot of his, and another in his, and another in his, and so on and so forth, and onward and upward. Gee whiz! But that's just a start. I'll do better than that the next day in my zookeeper's hat, coming to my zoo with an elephant cat. They'll be surprised, they'll all swallow their gum, they'll ask when they see my strange animals come, where do you suppose he gets things like that from? His animals have such very odd faces. He must hunt them in rather odd places. And that's what I'll do, said young Gerald McGrew. If you want to catch beasts you don't see every day, you have to go to places quite out of the way. You have to go places no others can get to. You have to get cold and you have to get wet too. Up past the North Pole with frozen winds squall, I'll go on a hunt in my skigglmobile, and I'll bring back a family of what do you know, and that's how my new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will grow. I'll hunt in the mountains of Zuma Batat, and with helpers who I'll wear their eyes on a slant, and capture a fine frilly bird called a bustard, who only eats custards made of sauce made of mustard, and also a very fine beast called the flustered, who only eats mustard with a sauce made of custard. I'll catch them in caves, I'll catch them in brooks, I'll catch them in crannies, I'll catch them in nooks that you don't read about in geography books. I'll catch them in countries no one can spell, like the country of Matafapatafapal. In a country like that, if a hunter is clever, he'll hunt up some beast that you never saw ever. I'll load up 5 boats with a family of jolts whose feet are like cows and but wear squirrel skin coats, and sit down like dogs and have voices like goats, except they can't sing the very high notes. And then I'll go down to the wilds of Nantucket and capture a family of lunks in a bucket. Then people will say, I like that boy heaps. His new zoo, McGrew Zoo, is growing by leaps. He captures them wild, he captures them meek, he captures them slim, he catches them sleek. What do you suppose he'll capture next week? I'll capture one tiny, I'll capture one cute, I'll capture a deer no hunter would shoot. A deer that is so nice that could sleep in your bed if it weren't for those horns it has on his head. And speaking of horns that are quite a bit queer, I'll bring back a very odd family of deer. A father, a mother, 2 sisters, a brother, whose horns are connected from one to the other, whose horns are so mixed they can't tell them apart, can't tell where they end, can't tell where they start. Each deer's mighty puzzled, he's never yet found if his horns are hers or the other way round. I'll capture them fat, I'll capture them scrawny, I'll capture a scraggle-foot Malabakani, a high-stepping animal fast as the wind from the blistering sands of the desert of Zind. This beast is the beast that brave chieftains ride when they want to go fast and find some place to hide. A Magillatwani is a find for my zoo, and so is a chieftain. I'll bring back one too. In the far west part of northeast Dakota lives a very fine animal called the Iota, but I'll capture one who is much finer in the northeastern west part of South Carolina. And when people see him, they will say, now by thunder, this new zoo, McGrew Zoo, is really a wonder. Most beasts are quite friendly, but in some lands, some beasts are too dangerous to catch with bare hands. For those that are ugly and vicious and mean, I'll build a bad animal catching machine. It's rather expensive to build such a kit, but with it a hunter can never be bit. A zoo should have bugs, so I'll capture a thorir whose legs are snarled up in a terrible sneer. And then I'll go out and capture some chugs, some keen shooter, mean shooter, bean shooter bugs. I'll go to the African island of Yurka and bring back a tuzzle-top tuft mazurka, a kind of canary with quite a tall throat. His neck is so long if he swallows a note, For breakfast the first day of April, they say, it has to go down such a very long way. And it gets to his stomach the 15th of May. I'll bag a big bug who's very surprising, a feller who has a propeller for rising, and zooming around making cross-country hops from Texas to Boston with only 2 stops. Now that sort of thing for a bug is just tops. And then when I've caught him, then the next thing you know, I'll go and capture while tic-tac-toe with X's that wins and zeros that loses. He'll look mighty good in this zoo of McGruises. I'll bring back a gusket, a gherk, and a gusket, and a grooch from the wilds of Nantusket. And 8 Persian princes will carry the basket, but what their names are I don't know, so don't ask it. A cave in Khartoum lives the beast called a Natch that no hunter's been able to catch. He's hidden for years in his cave with a pout, and no one's been able to make him come out. But I'll coax him out with a wonderful meal that's cooked by my cooks in my cooker-mobile. That'll fix up a dish that is just to his taste, 3 chicken croquettes made of library paste, then sprinkled with peanut shucks, pickled and spiced, and baked at 600 degrees and then iced. It's mighty hard cooking to cook up such feasts, but that's how the new zoo, McGruzu, gets beasts. I'll go to the faraway mountains of Tobolsk, near the river of Nosk, and bring back an ospk, the sort of thingamabobsk that only eats rhubarb and corn on the cosp. Then people will flock to my zoo in a mopsk. McGrew, they will say, does a wonderful jobsk. He hunts with such vim and vigor, and hunts with such vigor. His new zoo, McGruzu, gets bigger and bigger. And speaking of birds, there's a Russian Paluski, whose headski is redsky and his belly is blueski. I'll get one of them for my zooski McGrewski. Then the whole town will gasp. Why, this boy never sleeps. No keeper ever kept what he keeps. There's no telling what the young fellow will do, and just then I'll show them. I'll sail to Katru and bring back an Itzkisk, a Preep, a Nurko, a Nerd, and a Prue, and a sure sucker too. I'll hunt in the jungles of Hipponodungus and bring back a flock of wild Biponobungus. The Biponobungus from Hipponodungus are better than those down in Diponodungus, and smarter than those out in Nipponohungus, and that's why I'll catch them in Hipponohungus, instead of the others in Ningus and Dingus, and people will say they see these bips bounding. The zookeeper, new keeper, simply astounding. He travels so far that you think he would drop. When do you suppose the young fellow will stop? Stop? Well, I should, but I won't until I've captured a Phasmazamadil, the world's biggest bird from the island of Gurk, who only eats pine trees and spits out the bark. And boy, when I get him back home to my park, the world would say young McGrew's made his mark. He's built a zoo better than Noah's whole ark. Those wonderful, marvelous beasts that he chooses have made him the greatest of all of the McGrewses. Wow! They all cheer. What this zoo must be worth. It's the goldarndest zoo on the face of the earth. Yes, that's what I'd do, said young Gerald McGrew. I'd make a few changes if I ran the zoo. The end.